Well, hello and welcome back. My name is Kieron Seamons and this is my inky world. And as you have noticed, I have a rather large finger today. I have sliced my finger. I have broken a huge glass jar and I have sliced through my finger. And I don't have any plasters, so I've had to wrap it in some kitchen towel for now. Cannot stop the bleeding. I have a little bit of a problem with bleeding. If I bleed for like hours, But today we are going to talk about one of the cartoon characters that is very, very close to my heart, and that is the fantastic, the marvelous, the absolutely delightful King Rara. So, I'm going to draw a inky version of King Rara today. If you would like to hear some stories of the old days of cartoons, here we go. So hello and welcome back. So today we're going to go back quite a few years now, and we're going to go back to a character that is extremely close to my heart. For a lot of reasons. Obviously, one of the reasons was that it was a character that I had created, I had designed, I had gone through the whole concept of who is this character and what is he going to be like, and which is quite a huge achievement, really. I mean, to come up with a character and to come up with who he is, who is his friends, what is his story, what is the environment around this person, and the basis of King Rara is quite strange, because I had simply set up my own animation studio after years and years and years of working for other companies and working for some of the best and biggest animation studios in the world. I had felt amazing and I wanted to prove myself. And I had kind of explained some of the situations with some of the companies, and I had worked for quite a few of the companies, and I just decided that it was time to go it alone, to do it on my own, and to kind of see what I could do, see what I could achieve from all what I've learned. And I'd met a lot of great animators, great directors, and the plan was to basically go around to all these people and say, hey, do you wish that you didn't work for these big guys and you could work for some kind of little guy and we could have a very friendly atmosphere studio? And that is basically what happened. And I went around and I asked lots of people to come and join me, and Sandman Animation Studio was built. And the first project that we did was called Mission E, or My Pet, and we'd put all our energy into drawing and planning this series. Now you have to remember, these are back in the days when I didn't have any investors. This was all kind of like my idea, my plan, my dream. And there wasn't any big companies there to kind of throw out some amazing money. And it was all built off what work we got. What work we got went into the company. What work we got went into the company. And such. So that was what the studio was built on. And we had done our first show, which was Mission E, My Pet, and we had gone to Europe. We'd gone to the Cannes Film Festival, and we had tried to sell the show, and we got lots of great feedback. But it seemed to be that we had hit a period of time where a lot of the companies seem to come to the Cannes Film Festival with some kind of want. We are looking for a show about a pirate. What? I don't have any shows about pirates. Oh, that's a shame. Like that, you know. Or we want a story about people that travel to space. Have you got any Rocket Men stories? No. And so we had turned up, and it was Mission E, Emily. There's a lovely story about this little girl, and she's dreams of having all these animals, and then once she learns about all these animals, they're not quite perfect. And we were so over the moon about it. We were extremely happy. And when we got there, everybody was saying, we really want stuff that doesn't have much dialogue. Like a Mr. Bean, you know, it's kind of like, ooh, that type of thing, you know. And so they don't have to, they can sell it to all these different foreign language countries, and it doesn't cost a huge fortune to put all the languages on there. And that's what the big thing was at the time. And I remember talking with a lot of my old former bosses, and then kind of saying, well, Kieron, you know, if you're setting up your company, you really should be thinking about that, because in the few coming years it's getting more and more expensive to do dialogue dubs and things like that. This is the way to go. So I packed up, and on the flight home I was thinking about this and thinking about that and thinking how to do this and how to do that, and I started to think about this idea, and I was kind of thinking about the situation of kind of like me being an artist and then becoming a boss. You know, it's like not really what you wanted. You wanted to kind of get your art bigger and bigger and bigger, but to become a boss and to have a studio seemed to be the best way to survive. And that's exactly what I did. So on the way back, I was thinking about how to come up with a story, and I started to think about my situation, about being a regular person, a regular kind of artist person, and then suddenly becoming the boss, and everybody's asking you questions, and everybody wants you to have answers. And I thought, what a wonderful idea to have this kind of lion who wants to be a gardener, but all his father before him and his father's 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 father and his father's father were all kings. They were all lion kings, and now the crown had come down to him. And I loved this concept. I loved this idea that he would be quite a silly kind of king and not really know all the answers, but he started to develop this thing that he could say, well, you know, I've always wanted to go to the moon. Oh, hang on. I'm a king. I want to go to the moon. And then all the animals of the jungle would say, oh, he's our king. We should take him to the moon. And that's how the story concept came from. So it's basically a kind of rough idea about me being a boss and the difficulties of being a boss. So there you go. That's was the back concept of it. And I had only really just started to write stories. I mean, I'd written stories, hundreds of stories, but never in a way of writing episodes so that they kind of from week to week they kind of would continue, which is quite a difficult thing to come up with. A story is quite easy, but to come up with a story that can run for 100 stories, now that's a challenge. And indeed it was. I know the first episode of him chasing chasing some bugs and being very unsuccessful. It was also a very unsuccessful first story. Until it kind of dawned on me that where this could go. And then the stories flooded out of me, and I couldn't stop writing them, and I got very excited. So my my kind of assistant, my kind of art director assistant, was a guy who came to me when we were doing interviews. We were doing interviews to get new people into for staff, and this we had done all the interviews for that day, and then I was kind of got to the last one, and I was like, okay, and then my translator came in and said, oh, there's one more. And I kind of looked at my list, and I thought, well, no, it was like, we had 20 interviews today. That's the last one. It's done. No, some guy at the front door wants to have an interview. I've had like 20 interviews. I'm quite exhausted. And to be quite honest, they were quite dreadful. Lots of students coming, and And so I said, oh, what's the guy's name? And he said, he's called the Fun Guy. What? He's called the Fun Guy? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if you're kind of brave enough to call yourself the Fun Guy, bring him in. Bring him in. So this lovely little, very, very small, skinny little man came in, and very jolly, very full of beans, and very kind of quite proud to be able to speak English. And he spoke quite well compared to the students and stuff like that. They all needed a translator. He didn't really need much of a translator at all. And he was saying, well, I said, well, write me a story, and write me a little kind of paragraph story, and do 2 rough characters that fit into your story so I can see how your mind works. Off he went, and he came back with this elaborate story about King Arthur, and he'd drawn King Arthur and some kind of cat or something like that, and I was like, wow, this guy's got some drive, he's got some thought. So it turns out that this guy's name wasn't the Fun Guy, but it was called Funki, which was his Chinese name. And when I asked about his Chinese name, he said, well, it kind of translates into square. So you can see where I'm going with this, can't you? So it was kind of like, okay, well, Mr. Square, you can come and join the studio. And he came and joined, and he became the most delightful, lovely person you could ever meet. And he became my assistant, and he came to help me. And we were in my office one day, and I was working out what this king in my story, what he was going to look like. And I had these kind of 3 designs. So I brought him in to kind of get his point of view, what he thought. So he's looking at them and thinking, well, I like that bit, but I don't like that bit. And this was the first, I think this is the first ever digital show that we had done in a software called Flash. And I had put down some of the elements, and I was starting to move some of the elements around. So, well, let's take that away and put that there. And I basically took, by mistake, I took the hair from this very shabby, angular design that I come up with to this very kind of natural hair, very kind of droopy hair with a very bright face. And I took the bright face and the angular hair, and by mistake, I kind of crossed them over. And while we were talking, and then I looked down and I thought, oh, that looks really nice. And he agreed. And so the design for King Rara is basically the face and the body of one design and the hair from a completely different design that just on that day got crossed over. So he ended up with this lovely angular hair that should have been on a very angular face, and it didn't. And so that led to 100 episodes, 104 episodes of the delightful King Rara. And you can find him on YouTube. Please do. Please go and find him. And the amazing thing was that we had to write this story about a king, and all of the animals were just animal noises, you know. The lion was just like a rah kind of sound. So we developed this way that he would just be like rah, 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 rah. And then the elephant was just like that type of trumpet type sound. And the monkey was just like ooh, 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 ah, 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 ooh, 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 ah, type of. So that was all the sound. So we wrote the script, and then we kind of, you know, if he was worried about something, he would kind of go ooh, ah, like that. So the animals acted to what was happening in the story. And so we'd gone and we got to the point where we had gone to try and get some actors to do the voices and to try and get things kind of moving. And then the cost for the actors came in, and basically we had a meeting, and it was too expensive. We couldn't do it. Simply couldn't do it. And but we had kind of booked studio time and everything. If I remember, it was all kind of, we kind of thought that it would all happen and go forward and go through, and it didn't. It became impossible. But obviously, you know, I was driven to kind of say, well, if we don't do this, what do? We can't just sit and wait for work. We have to make our own. We have to make our own shows. So it was kind of like one night going home and sitting worrying about the world, and then I thought, well, since it's only animal noises, could I do it? Oh my God. So I had an extra glass of wine, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, you know, I could do rah 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 for the lion. I could do for the trumpet, for the elephant, and it all seemed like a great idea. And then I went through and I did some tests, and the tests came up and everybody seemed to like them, and it ended up that I was designing the characters, storyboarding the characters, writing the scripts and the stories for the characters, doing the voices for the characters, and it all became so much. And it was 104 episodes that we'd done, so it was quite a big kind of challenge, you know. It was quite a daunting task, really. But so when you see the stories, you will see that King Rara and all the animals, every voice on that entire 100 episodes is me. So that was the wonderful adventures, and to be honest, even though I thought that I would hate the show by the end of it, I actually really grew to love the show and the character, and the way that the stories went. I actually went on. I know that we didn't. I actually wrote 104 episodes, and then I basically went on and wrote about another 100 episodes, which never became a cartoon, but written nonetheless. And it was quite a magical time, very, very magical. And King Ra had this little kind of like a little kind of shawl that he wore, and he wore a crown, and that was basically all that he wore. And it was, and I still enjoy it. I still, I don't know if I can. Well, I could show you a little clip. Let's see if I can pull that over, and maybe I could show you a little clip. Let's see on YouTube if I can get a little clip. There you go. Can you see it? Oh, where is it? There. So that was the basic story of it. Let's stop that. That was the basic color designs of it, and it all worked so beautiful. And it was done in this software called Flash, which was really quite a powerful software at the time. And it was one of the softwares that basically changed animation. It became the new form of animation around that period of time, and we were right on the beginning ages of it. And we went on to do a lot of Flash shows, which were the beginning of the digital era, and they were extremely cheap. And it kind of, in a way, it kind of killed the animation industry in a way, because it became the driven way that things became cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and which was very, very, very sad. Very sad indeed. But so that was King Rara, and we did 100, like I said, 100 episodes with my lovely friend Mr. Square helping me, and he was a fantastic. Up until that time, I'd really got very tired of working with assistants. You kind of say, I want this, and this. I'll give you this drawing and this drawing and this drawing. I want you to do this, and then you kind of talk everything through them. And they go and they come back, and you go, what is that? He was very different. He was spot on, and he was a great, great, great guy to work with. So that was one of my favorite shows, and still to this day I have a very, very soft and sweet place in my heart for this King Rara. And we made a lot of kids' books as well. If you're interested to go and see some of the kids' books, they're beautifully done. I think there's about 28 of the books. And that was King Rara. And he went on to be a very, very popular show for us. And we won lots of awards for it as well. We won some of the best design awards. We won the Best Pilot Award and such things like that. I remember the Hong Kong Awards, we won those as well. We won the Golden Panda Award for it. And then when the company kind of came to an end, all those kind of awards meant nothing, and they all kind of went in the bin, really. Very sad, but I kind of feel like at that time there was a lot of kind of sadness and bitterness, and as there is on any company that comes to an end. In fact, we won I think it was called the Crystal Star, which was this huge award for King Rara, and I remember when we got it, it was so big. It was like something you would probably win at the Olympics or something. It was like probably about this big. It was this golden big crystal shard that was like this big on a stand, and it used to sit in my room, and it used to sit on this big wooden sideboard. And when the lady cleaner used to come in, she would kind of clean around, and as she cleaned my office, she would always knock this thing over. So I had this tube of super glue in my desk, and so every time she'd come in, she would clean around it, and we'd go ka-dunk. Oh, sorry, and you'd be like, oh, don't worry. You've already done it 52 times already, so don't worry. And then I'd have to glue the shard of this kind of crystal award back on. So it had so many repairs on it, all with super glue holding it together. But she didn't mean it. It was an accident. It was a very large award anyway. It was bound that somebody would knock it over, you know. And there is the delightful and the wonderful King Rara, who will go on in my memory and in my love for animation forever. Being one of the first shows that I ever wrote. Mission E being the first show that I'd scripted. King Rara was the second show that I'd scripted, and I really felt that my writing had gone on in huge leaps and bounds for this series, and some of the stories actually went on to be quite a proud moment. There was a snake in there who was the bad guy, and the stories got quite intricate, even though they weren't really speaking. It was a very beautiful story, and it was quite an easy one for kids to follow. There was one episode I remember where there was all the animals were worried about this black jaguar that had escaped, and the king is down fishing, and he's fishing, and he pulls out a squid, and the squid shoots black ink over him, and the animals decide that they're going to teach this kind of black panther, this black jaguar, a lesson. So every time they would see the poor king appear, they would beat him over the head with, and it was very, very, very good fun times. Writing some very, very silly, very, very kind of a little bit kind of slapstick in a way that there was a lot of humor in there that was kind of like thumping on the head, and I'm going to put a little frame on my character, King Rara. Let's give him a nice big name. And a very, very, very beautiful cartoon show. Great memories. So, if you have children and you'd like to buy a nice, interesting book, go along and find a King Rara book. Great adventures, fun adventures. And great memories for me. Very, very, very good memories. A lot of my kind of scripting growing up happened during King Rara. In fact, I remember there was one of my student storyboard people, and she was very, very, very funny. She was very, very kind of reminded me of myself, how kind of childish I was in my younger years. And I remember I was writing a story about how the king had ended up with they'd been playing this joke on it. All the animals were kind of like, the elephant would play this joke on the monkey, and the monkey would play this joke on the giraffe, and it was all this thing about, here, do you want a sweet? And they would eat the sweet and they'd have black teeth. And then the king turns up and is kind of like, what's everybody laughing about? And they're like, oh, nothing, nothing, nothing. And he starts to get a little bit suspicious, like, are you laughing at me, you lot? And he says, he kind of demands that he wants to be part of the joke. And so the monkey kind of gives him one of the sweets, and he ends up with black teeth. And they suddenly think it's very, very funny. But the king starts to get even more suspicious, and they start to get a bit worried that maybe they will all lose their head or something if the king finds out. And so I had to come up with a cure for how does the king get his black teeth back to white. And I was sitting there and I was worrying about, how am I going to do it? How will I do this? How will I do? And this young storyboard girl came in and was like, hello, can you fix my work for me? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you look so worried. What's wrong with you? And I said, well, it's not, nothing really. And eventually I kind of told her that I have this problem in my story, and about the king having black teeth, and how do I get his teeth back to white? And she said, why don't you, the monkey give him some white chocolate, and the white chocolate changed his teeth back. I don't know. It sounded like the most silly idea, but it made me laugh, and that is actually what happens in the story. I actually got it to the point where they give him white chocolate, and it kind of saves everybody's trouble. So rather silly stories, lovely memories for this delightful character called King Rara. So that's today's drawing, that's today's memories, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing it, and thank you for laughing at my finger. I'm hoping by the end of this drawing and the editing that my finger will start bleeding and I will be back to normal. But thank you very much for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the donations. And all the donations, very, very, very supportive. Very, very helpful. Thank you very much. And I will see you all again tomorrow for another drawing and some more memories. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.